Good morning, fam. Welcome back to yet another one of my videos. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel and spending some time with me this morning. Today it is Saturday, February 4th, and if you watched, I think, my previous video, I mentioned that I was going to do the 15,000 calorie challenge. Before I get talking about it, I just want to make sure that you guys understand that this is purely out of entertainment. Like, I definitely wouldn't recommend doing this. It's not good for your body. It's definitely not going to help my digestion or make me feel any better. But Gabby, my best friend, she's never done the 10,000 calorie challenge, and there's been a lot of 10K calorie challenges coming out on YouTube. So every time I watch them, I'm like, hey, I want to try to do 15K, because if you watch my 10,000 calorie challenge, which I will link below and it will come right up here, you guys will see that I really wanted to go past 10K and I actually wasn't able to. So I kind of want like a rematch, and I just want to try it again and just challenge myself, I guess, now that I don't have like competition prep or like a cutting phase or anything going right now. I'm like, you know what, why not challenge myself in a different way? So that's why we're gonna try this food challenge. Well, I'm doing 15K, Gabby's gonna do 10K. I did hit 10,000 calories when I did it last time, so obviously I'll be dealing with some weight gain. I will do a physique update before I start the challenge tomorrow and kind of show you guys where I'm at before and where I'm at after. And I have been eating in a deficit for the past couple of days, just because like I know that I'm gonna be eating 15,000 calories, so it'll help me have a bigger appetite tomorrow and balance my calories out a little bit. Even though it's not too much, it'll help slightly. So I'm sure some of you are interested in knowing how much of a deficit I'm going in. I'm not trying to hit a certain number. I'm just making sure that I'm eating enough, but I'm not quite hitting my macros. So like yesterday I only took in like 1,200 calories, and the day before I took in like 1,400. So obviously, like I said a million times, please, like, don't, honestly, I would say don't do it unless like you find this kind of stuff fun. It's fun until you get to like the last little bit and you're like, why did I do this again? Like, I've only done one food challenge before, and it's a 10K, and I definitely said that I would never do it again. So tomorrow I will remember why I had that feeling. But yeah, I've been basically going into a deficit just to balance everything out a little bit. And today I want to take you guys through some lower carb meals just to show you how I'm hitting that deficit, and then it'll also give you some ideas. Aside from that, I will also be talking a little bit about carbs and the importance of carbs. A few videos ago I talked about the importance of protein and how much we should be getting in a day, and then someone brought up that I should talk about carbs a little bit. So that's what today's going to look like, guys. I'm going to try to fast as long as I can, so I'm going to get into some work first, shower, and I will talk to you guys when I dig into my first meal. Alright, fam, before I do get into some breakfast, I'm going to have my usual multivitamins, probiotics, digestive enzymes, greens, and then we'll get into some breakfast.
All I do is adore you all of the time. I like to I like to I like to love you every day.
Alright, so we got this flat out wraps that I got in the States. You can find them in Canada as well. They're just not as low carb, but they are lower carb and a lot bigger than most wraps. And it has 1.5 fat, 14 carb, 8 fiber, and 9 grams of protein for one whole wrap. So we're going to be making, if you guys can guess,
I like to love you, love you. I'd like to love you, if I may, if I may. I'd like to love you, love you. I'd like to love you, love you. I'd like to love you night and day, if I may.
Alright guys, so I'm sorry about the lighting, but literally, like, there's a huge window right there, so this is why I always have to like do it in weird angles. But this right here is my attempt at a crunch wrap. If you guys are familiar with the flexible dieting lifestyle, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Clearly it's a little bit too stuffed. What he basically does is he puts cheese on the bottom, and that's what seals the wrap. But honestly, like, it's so crunchy, it's still gonna be good. Just because it's not aesthetic doesn't mean it's not gonna taste.
I'd like to I'd like to love you every day. I'd like to love you.
So for for that first meal, we have a total of 5 fat, 20 carb, 10 grams of fiber, and 30 grams of protein. You guys saw it was a pretty decent sized meal, and it's not too high in carbs. It's pretty high in protein, so that's good. Protein will definitely help with satiety, and same things with fats. Usually I do like to have a higher fat meal if I'm gonna have a lower carb meal, just because I find that the higher fats actually keep me full longer. If you guys didn't know, fats are slow digesting, so they will keep you satisfied longer. Right now it is 11:55 a.m. I do have a posing client at 2 p.m. so I will most likely have my next meal after that. We'll see what I end up coming up with. I do want to keep it pretty simple today. Gabby will be getting here tonight because we're starting the day together tomorrow for the challenge. We definitely plan on waking up pretty early. That way we can get a good amount of calories right at the beginning of the day and make sure that we hit those calories by the end of the day. It's a challenge and we're definitely accepting it. So I'm just getting back from posing and Renee did amazing. She's actually someone that I met through YouTube. I'm gonna be prepping her for her first bikini show, so I'm super excited because she has a wicked shape. She did amazing with her posing and she's just gonna kill it. Like, I know she's gonna do so well. Like you guys saw, it is 3:47 right now, so I am pretty hungry because I haven't eaten since the first meal that you guys saw this morning. So I'm gonna throw something together quickly and show you guys what I'm having. And something that I do want to mention as well is that just because you're eating foods that are very high in volume, it doesn't mean that you're gonna be fuller longer. I've actually found that when I eat stuff that's more calorie and nutrient dense, like let's say plantains over puffed wheat cereal, like yeah, plantains are very high in carbs, but I find myself fuller longer, and not just because I'm having more carbs in one sitting, because even if I have the same amount of grams of carbs from plantains as I would from puffed wheat cereal, I still feel a lot fuller from the plantains, even if it's the same amount of calories, same amount of carbs. But I just think it's the fact that it's a more nutrient dense food. So that's something you really want to pay attention to. Don't just eat things because you feel like you're getting more out of it. Make sure that you really pay attention to your body and how you feel after that meal, because sometimes you eat things that look like a lot, like vegetables per se, and then 10 minutes later you find yourself hungry again. So make sure that you're eating foods that are keeping you satisfied longer. That way you're able to spread out your food throughout the day, and that's just crucial when it comes to cutting, because if you don't do that and you find yourself with very little macros at the end of the day, chances are that you're going to end up overeating. So make sure that you're eating foods that are keeping you satisfied for a long amount of time, spreading out your food throughout the day, and that way you're going to be setting up yourself for success. So that being said, I'm going to make my meal and I'll show you guys what I'm having. Kept it pretty simple with some sweet potatoes, some holy guacamole, chicken, shredded lettuce, some ketchup, and Parmesan Herb Clubhouse seasoning. This meal is actually very low carb because I only use 85 grams of sweet potato, because when I need something sweet, puffed wheat cereal always got my back. So while that is cooking, I do want to get into a little bit of a carb talk. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I wanted to discuss the benefits of having carbs in our diets and how much we should be having per day. Obviously, just like protein, this is all going to depend on the individual, how active you are. If you are a more sedentary person, your carb needs are a bit lower. But if you are an active individual, then having carbs in your diet is definitely going to be a huge benefit, not only for your performance, but just how you feel every single day in general. When we think of fat loss, we initially, for the most part, think low carb, because that's what's been engraved in our brains. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna induce fat loss just because you're going low carb. To achieve fat loss, we need to be in a caloric deficit, whether this be through a lower fat intake or a lower carb intake, or increasing your activity levels. All in all, it just comes down to your caloric intake. So you don't need to focus on a certain macronutrient to achieve fat loss. So if that's your way of thinking, then get that out of your head and stop looking at macronutrients as good or bad, because there honestly is no such thing. Like, our body needs all three macronutrients and micronutrients to perform at its best. So there is no need to go super low fat, super low carb. But if you are trying to achieve fat loss, eventually you will end up at either or, just because you do need to be at a certain caloric intake to achieve fat loss. So it's not so much about the macros that you're taking in, but about the calories. That being said, when you are trying to achieve a certain body fat, you do have to play around with what kind of macronutrients you're taking in and the ratios, just because when it gets down to that level where your body's just like at its last little bit of body fat, and I'm talking about like physique, competitor body fat, you do have to play around a little bit with the macro ratios, just because your body and your hormones do respond differently to what kind of ratio you're taking in. But if you're just someone who's trying to achieve fat loss and you're a beginner, or you just have lifestyle goals, and you really don't have to emphasize so much on following a specific type of diet unless you're like carb sensitive or you suffer from a specific disease. That being said, if you are in a fat loss phase and you do decrease your carbs too rapidly, you can cause, I do have a cheat sheet here, so if you see me looking down, that's why. But that can cause decreased thyroid output, which just means your metabolism will slow down. It can also increase your cortisol output and decrease your testosterone levels, which just basically means that your stress hormones will go up and your muscle building hormones will go down. It also causes impaired mood and cognitive function, and it also suppresses your immune function. So it'll make you feel lousy, spaced out, foggy, and even sick. So as you can see, there's a lot of risks that come from being on a low carb diet. And for women, it can actually cause lower fertility, stopped or irregular menstrual cycles. It can cause hypoglycemia and blood sugar swings, low bone density, more body fat due to the increased cortisol hormones, anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. And it can also cause chronic fatigue and disrupted sleep. A lot of the time when people do low carb diets, they see very rapid fat loss at the beginning of their diet and they think that it's actual fat, but most of the time it's just muscle glycogen and water. It'll definitely make a difference in your physique, but it's not going to be actual fat loss. Having a sufficient amount of carbs in your diet is super important because carbs actually replenish the glycogen in your muscles, and not having enough glycogen in your muscles can actually end up in a more catabolic environment for your muscles, which just means that your body will start using muscle as energy, and there will be more protein breakdown and less protein synthesis, which I talked about in one of my videos where I discussed protein. So if you haven't checked it out, then you might want to do that, and I will link it down below. As far as carb intake goes, it definitely all depends on the individual. Some people have a higher carb tolerance, some people don't. So the best way to find out is honestly just to give it a try and see how your body responds. If you find yourself putting on body fat very rapidly, then you can decrease your carbs a little bit. And if you find yourself just maintaining really well or even losing weight, you can go ahead and increase those carbohydrates. But honestly, trial and error is the best way to find out how your carb tolerance is. But if you are an athlete that's in the gym very often, if you're an endurance athlete, then your carb tolerance is definitely going to be a lot higher, and you'll just be able to notice it by the way that your body responds to having a higher carb intake. For more sedentary people, you definitely want to have a lower carb intake. My rule of thumb is usually doing 30 to 40% of your calories coming from carbs in your diet. But like I said, the best way to find out is just through trial and error. And as your body composition changes too, and you put on lean body mass, your carb tolerance will actually increase as well. That being said, if you're a competitor and you have gone through multiple competition preps and your metabolism isn't the healthiest, then your carb tolerance might not be the best. But if you haven't gone through that and you're putting on a good amount of lean body mass, you will see that your body will actually need a higher carb intake just to maintain the body mass. And it's not just a higher carb intake, it's just a higher caloric intake in general. So it's definitely not as hard as people make it seem to be. It's just that people like to complicate things because most of the time people are trying to find an easy way to achieve results. So they'll try all kinds of different things and go from like low fat to low carb to freaking high protein, and that's all, and barely eat any carbs or fats. And it's just because people want to find an easy way to achieve results. Whereas if you just follow a well-rounded diet with a good amount of carbs, a good amount of fats, good amount of protein, you will see results. It's just a matter of just being patient and stop looking for quick fixes. So I think that's about it. If you guys have any other questions, make sure to leave them down below. I'm gonna go ahead and check up on my cauliflower, and I will catch you guys at my next meal. I have one of my favorite low carb meals. I think it's low carb. You can consider it low carb, I would say. It's low carb, it's super filling, has a good amount of micronutrient, and it's just freaking satisfying. Whoa, so good. And I'm still feeling hungry, so I'm gonna have 100 grams of pomelo, 115 grams. If you don't know what this is, it's almost like a big grapefruit, but it tastes better, in my opinion. So good. I'm about to put the cauliflower that I made earlier to work. I'm gonna blend it up in here. I'm gonna add some basil, some parm and herb cheese. No, not cheese. Parm and herb seasoning, some salt. So I can't believe it's not butter. Gonna blend that up in here and we're gonna make some cauliflower mash. So we're gonna pretend that I meant to make it slightly more liquidy and we're gonna use it as a sauce for the bok choy that I am about to cook. Tastes really freaking good. If I don't eat it all before I make the bok choy. Got some feta cheese, cauliflower mash, bok choy, and some chicken on the bottom. Definitely not what I meant to make, but it gonna taste good. I'm not gonna lie, and I mean I can't lie because you guys saw what it looks like. It doesn't look the best, but it tastes pretty freaking good. Like the feta cheese just gives it that perfect salty touch. It's actually so good, Becca. Like what the hell?
Are you just saying that, or is it?
No, it's weird because it looks disgusting.
Do I smell it?
It's not gonna smell good.
It smells like Parmesan cheese.
Like what?
Parmesan cheese.
Tried protein brownie like that, you don't need to eat on it because yeah, like do I need to? Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. All right, fam, that is how I am ending today's vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog. Some good little macro-friendly ideas for you to stay sane and stick to your diet and set yourself up for success. I'm sorry, it's so good. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and you want to see that 15,000 calorie challenge, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you send all your positive vibes my way because I'm gonna need them. I do not know how it's gonna go, but you know what? I'm an ambitious person and I am not willing to stop until I hit that number. So I will catch you guys in the next vlog. Thank you so much for tuning back into my channel and I hope you guys have an amazing day.